Hi everyone, welcome. I'm out here in my garden and we're in my outdoor worm bag. It's a system that we only checked in on less than a week ago because I had some stuff in the fridge, some stuff in the crisper that had gone bad. It was I think it was tomatoes and grapes and a number of other things that I used to feed this bin. And then after that, there was some rain expected, so I left the bin uncovered to allow the rain to seep in for a day or two. Should have really made this into a nice cozy spot for the worms. I've since covered it up again, but I was out here last night to put some stuff into my compost barrel that sits right next to this system, and things just didn't look right. It seemed like the plastic had all been sort of pushed inboard a lot, and like all this material here was actually piled up on top of the plastic here too. So there was a big hole dug on both sides, and there's still even you know, evidence of that big hole that was dug over here too. It did appear to me as if something might have come in here and may have been trying to, you know, either scavenge some worms, or maybe there was something about the food that I placed in here last time. So I was just a little concerned. I wanted to make sure I wasn't going through another one of these situations where the system had been raided by some sort of a creature. I have no idea what it could have been, but I just figured I'd make sure there's been no damage done. And I also kind of gave myself another excuse to check in here by looking through the refrigerator and finding just a few other things that needed to be discarded anyway. And I found some forgotten about tomatoes that had started developing a little bit of mold, so they're going to get a little extra snack today. A little bonus, just since they're going to have to tolerate me coming in here to satisfy my curiosity. And it's always fun to check on these outdoor systems, so I figured I'd pull up a chair. Usually I just kind of lean over and hover to do this, but for this I figured I would just grab a chair, sit down here. It might allow for me to hold my head a little bit more steady since I'm wearing the camera on my forehead. So I was definitely curious. Right after I had placed the food in here a few days ago, I was very curious to see, you know, what becomes of it. So I can't remember how deep I had placed it, but I would imagine we're gonna start encountering it pretty soon. I'm pretty sure I dug a fairly deep hole to place it into. But yeah, right away you could see lots and lots of worms inhabiting the material that I just excavated. But we've not yet seen any of those types of food items that I made reference to. Now we're finally getting there. Okay, and this is what I was curious of. I was wondering if whatever it is that started trying to rummage in here might have somehow sensed these grapes, because, you know, you gotta admit, these would be a pretty tempting little treat for maybe a raccoon or I don't know what. But I was just curious to see if that was possibly what may have been attracting whatever it is that dug a big hole in here. And I figured as long as I'm coming in here, maybe I can also, you know, if I encounter any that I didn't squish, that I would just squish them. I did try to give them a good squishing as I was placing them in here, but I figured I probably missed a whole bunch of them, so I thought I would give the ones that appear to still be intact a little bit of a burst to make sure that their fluids and their juices all come out and that their insides are readily accessible to anything that wants to eat them. Obviously here I'm thinking more in terms of the worms, in terms of them wanting to eat it. And I kind of figure that the grapes, the nice sweet sugary content, would probably draw the attention of the worms pretty quickly. And it seems to have worked to a certain point, or at least so it seems. It may have actually been the tomatoes. I really don't know for sure. I can't remember what kind of shape they were in, but I mean, there's really not much left of these tomatoes. The grapes, they're still in pretty good shape, and there's a lot of them. But I can't say that I'm seeing a lot of tomatoes. And, you know, now I'm starting to wonder, hopefully I've been pretty consistent in terms of scooping up the stuff that I'm pulling up from low. I'd like to try to get as much of it down low as possible so that it remains protected just by its depth, so it doesn't really get raided, because, you know, whatever it is that came in here looking for something, if it does actually hit the jackpot and find some of what it's looking for, it could, you know, be inspired to just dig a little harder and deeper and try to get in there to get at what it's found. So I don't want to encourage that sort of behavior. My hope is that it was just sort of a rogue occurrence of some creature that, you know, hopefully won't be back. But you know how it is, if there's like a whatever it was, if there's something that rummages around your yard in the evening looking for feeding opportunities, then chances are it's, you know, it's already got your space on its normal rounds in terms of places to look around in and search in. So whatever it was, is, you know, chances are it'll be back. And I'm starting to wonder if I'm kind of laying out the dinner table for this little guy. For, you know, chances are whatever it is that I just pulled up to the rim over here, I'm not going to get it all back down low. So I just feel like now that I've actually started into this, now I'm sort of coming up with the realization that I could have actually, as a result of what I'm doing here, made it even worse. So I'll definitely have to keep an eye on this system to see if it gets kind of dug up again. But luckily that piece of plywood that I've got on the top covers things pretty thoroughly, and it prevents, you know, intrusion. And, you know, as long as I'm thinking about it, maybe I could even put a cover on this thing or something that's a little bit more impervious to whatever it is that might have been in here rummaging around. So I'm just going to reach over here behind me where I've got the little extra food we're going to provide these guys with. Not going to go crazy, but I might actually give these a little burst as well. Huh. I don't know, I thought these were maybe a little overripe or not good anymore. Obviously the one with mold all over it is. But yeah, I mean, you can kind of tell when you touch a tomato that it doesn't really sort of spring back. It's a little bit overripe at this point, and this one's obviously already rotting. I figured I would just rupture them to make them to real juicy, tempting little morsels that are going to get the attention of the worms really quickly. Perhaps at first because of the moisture, but then ultimately because it'll start breaking down, it'll become a food source for the worms. So I'm going to do my best to try to make sure that I get everything that looks like a yummy piece of food, specifically grapes in this case, somewhere in the middle where it's at least covered by that piece of plywood. Makes it a little more difficult to be accessible by any sort of foraging creature that might be searching for a meal over here. Maybe I can even dig up some of this stuff off the edge that I know has no grapes in it to cover things up a little bit better. Well, it might not be perfect, but we'll keep our fingers crossed, and hopefully we're not inviting a major plunder of this system by some sort of crazy creatures. This is like a piece of rope or something, I don't know. We'll see if it's organic materials. I guess if it's cotton, it'll get consumed eventually by the worms, but if it's some sort of a nylon or synthetic material, they'll just pretty much sit in here forever probably. But all right, I was just getting a little bit curious about what was going on in here because of the apparent disruption, but I'm sort of glad to see that no major damage was done. And you know, now that the weather's getting nicer, it's always fun to check on these outdoor systems. I've resisted the urge to check my outdoor compost barrel because I'm just, I don't know why, I'm just a little bit nervous. You know, I'd hate to open that thing up and find absolutely no worms. My hope is that whatever worms were in there might have been able to, you know, weather the winter weather, and that they were able to survive the cold winter, and that there's hopefully still some surviving worms in there. But if there aren't, then I guess we'll just have to wait for whatever cocoons that might have been in there to eventually kind of sense the warmth and resume their development, and then hopefully we'll at least get baby worms hatching in there. But my hope is that there's still some worms that manage to, you know, huddle together, stay warm, and keep themselves protected from the excessive cold and survive the winter. So I've just got a little bit of cleaning up to do here. I'm just gonna pretty much shake off these gloves. I don't go nuts cleaning these things. The gardening gloves, just gonna go right back out in the garage. And I'll just put this plastic bag in the recycling, the one that I bought the tomatoes out here in. But that's it. Nothing else I wanted to do today. I just wanted to check in on this system really quick, see how things are doing, see if there was any damage done by whatever it is that dug those little holes, and at least it gave me a chance to get rid of those kind of spoiled tomatoes I found in my refrigerator. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please remember to leave me a thumbs up. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, also consider subscribing to the channel too. That's really appreciated as well. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.